Okay, we are live. Hey everyone, it is Dr. Tara, and whether you are joining us live or watching the recap, I want to welcome you all to Dr. Tara Tuesdays. We meet every Tuesday and discuss a topic that is important to our healing. Our mission here within the Dr. Tara community is healing together. Let's heal, and let's heal together. And so I want to just welcome you all. Again, feel free as you're watching to comment. I try to check each comment regularly. And I have a special guest with me today. Hey, peace, if you're just joining, say hi to us. We want to know who you are. Joining me today for this conversation is Shamija Jackson. We are talking about self-love for the month of February. And so last week we talked about men in therapy as a part of self-love and self-care. And I'm so excited for tonight's conversation because we are talking about women in therapy. And Shamija has joined. For those of you who don't know Shamija, she is my wonderful assistant. And, just being a part of this work, the work that we do, working with individuals impacted by trauma, working with children, self-care is something that we talk about often. Therapy is something that I'm an advocate of. I think it should be a part of life skills. And so, Shamija, I want to welcome you to the screen of Dr. Tara. Tuesdays, you're usually behind the screen, but introduce yourself to the Dr. Tara community and give a little snippet of why this topic is important to you, women in therapy, especially as it relates to self-care and self-love.
Sure. Hi, the Dr. Tara community. My name is Shamija Jackson. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. I'm an advocate for women and girls' health and social justice. And the reason why I think therapy is so important, I value it as much as if I have a migraine and I know that it's an issue, I will go to my primary care health physician. Mental health is the same thing to me. And if I feel that my levels are low or something's different and I can't talk through it with my husband or sit here and try to journal it out, I'm going to call and schedule an appointment with my therapist because I feel like having those honest and open conversations and being more proactive than reactive actually helps me become a better wife and a better mother.
So talk to us. And again, for those of you who are tuning in, feel free to drop a comment and share your story. One of the things that I love about the Dr. Tara community is how we process this topic together. But Shamija, can you tell us a little bit about any events in your life that led up to you deciding that therapy was an avenue that you needed to explore as a woman?
Yeah, sure. It was after I had my daughter and I felt something was off. And I told my girlfriends, I was like, hey, I think the stress of having a newborn is getting to me. I don't feel like myself. And of course, everyone was like, oh, girl, it's normal. Babies are crazy and that's just normal things. And I talked to my mother about it and she was like, no, you got to cook, you got to clean, you got to take care of the baby, take care of your husband. It's just normal. And for me, I was just like, no, I really don't like this baby anymore right now. I really think there's something going on that I need to talk to someone about. And so I reached out to my girlfriends, I told them about the baby, and I was able to make an appointment with the therapist, and we just went through it. And then I realized, even talking through the therapist and being able to say, I have postpartum depression. And that wasn't like a conversation I had. My girlfriends they weren't able to, girl, we think it's postpartum this. It was, you need to go somewhere and we can't help you.
It's interesting to me how you said that when you brought it up, the initial feedback that you got was, no, you got to keep going. You have to keep pushing. And, give me a thumbs up if you're watching, if that's something that we have learned to internalize, or learn to ignore. Like these triggers, our body is sending us these cues and these triggers, like you said, that something is wrong. And so I'm going to seek some kind of external advice or external opinion. And the feedback that I get is, no, you got to keep going through.
You can do this, girl. You got this.
Make you feel better if you work even harder, if you sleep less, if you show up for other people. But I think that's such a the honest feedback. And a lot of times that feedback is given in love, it's given with best intentions. I see a thumbs up, so it's given by people with well-meaning intentions, and also oftentimes by people where therapy wasn't even an option, right? Like therapy is something new within this community, whether it's the female community, whether it's the Black community, whether it's communities of color. Therapy is something new and something that has often been met with such a stigma, where it brings a sense of shame, right? So like you said about going to the doctor for a migraine, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm a bad person or I can't handle things, right? I didn't do anything wrong, but I don't feel good. It means that I'm not trying hard enough, right? There's still this stigma a lot of times around depression or anxiety where we can just want it,
right.
and therefore make it happen. And I have yet to meet the person who has felt depressed and anxious that did not want to feel better, right? And so I thank you for sharing that transparency piece about, sometimes the feedback can be steeped in good intentions, but it still misses our needs. And for you, what was it like for you to finally recognize that, okay, even though I'm reaching out to help externally, I'm going to listen to myself? Because that's a big deal too. Actually listen and then honor what you were feeling within inside yourself.
I think for me, so I'll give you a background, like the cultural lens as being a descendant of the Bahamas. In the Caribbean, therapy isn't even something that we mention. It's pray to God, talk to your girlfriends, talk to your mother. We did this. Our ancestors did this. Girl, we strong. All we do is hustle. And I was like, okay, yes, we can hustle. We can work hard. We can take care of the children. We can cook. We can clean. But when your mental is starting to shatter and there's no one to support you in that, for me, in that moment, I could care less what everybody else was saying. I knew for myself that I needed some type of intervention. And I know for myself that I couldn't do that for myself. And my husband couldn't do that for me. And even if his intentions were good and helping me process some of the information or giving me space and creating a routine, I would say that really actually helped us a lot by creating that routine of, okay, you do this, I do this, and try to have that balance a little bit. One of the therapists was like the icing on the cake for me. And then sitting there with her and then her having a whole new set of tools in a toolbox that I didn't even know exist. Really helped the whole entire situation, because I think, again, from my cultural lens, we don't talk about depression. We don't even talk about postpartum depression. You just pray to God and he gonna heal and make everything okay. And so for me, in that instance of reaching out, and it wasn't even hard. I think that was the other issue for me. I thought it was going to be, I got to call all these numbers. I have to meet and meet with this person, see if we fit, meet with this person, see if we have a good fit, excuse me. But it was really simple. I set up a consultation, 15 minutes, met with her, talked with her, expressed my needs. And she was the first one that I selected.
Awesome. I think for me too, like when listening to you talk, one of the things that stood out for me, so I've always been very candid about experiencing postpartum after both of my children, after Donald and Lola. And it was funny, I joke with people, I would say, Lola be crying, I look at her, I'm like, we both just about to be here crying, huh? You're crying, I'm crying, And the thing for me, so here I am, my PhD is in clinical psychology. I remember going to my checkup and telling the guy, the OBGYN, like, I have postpartum. She's like, well, aren't you this? And I'm like, okay, I don't think, our hormones, got the memo, like, to avoid this person, because of that. And that's one of the things that I always tell people, that, life does not protect you from your titles or your roles don't protect you from life, right? Life is going to show up for you, and your ability to respond to that. And I remember even going to a therapist and them saying to me, well, aren't you, like, don't you already know the skills? And I'm like, yes. I do. And clearly they're not working, and so just having, like you said, that outside person come in and say, one, that it's okay. That is okay, and the ease of that, and the permission, that you then, it's kind of like given to yourself to allow yourself to be vulnerable and to be human. To me, vulnerable means to be human, and to allow yourself to experience the full range of emotions, with the desire and with the goal of moving through some things and uncovering some things too. When you think about, how therapy has benefited you, can you break down how it's been at three parts, how it's benefited you as one, just as a person, first and foremost, because before we're anything else, we're people, right? Before we're professionals, before we are parents, before we are spouses, partners, we are people first. How it's benefited you as a person, as a wife, and as a mom?
Yeah, I think for me overall as a person, it gave me clarity. Like you said, for me, I didn't feel like I was just the only mother struggling through this. It gave me a peace of mind that I can actually make it through whatever I was going through because um, the good part about the therapist, she connected me with other women that was going through postpartum depression. And it was like this group's, the circle of sisters or something they called it, that we all sat together and talked about it. And then listening to everyone else, I was like, okay, great. I'm not the only one struggling. Because in my mind, my mother, she took care of me and my sister. She took care of the house. She took care of my father. And it was for me, that was my goal. That's where I had to be this person that can put it all together, have the meal ready when the husband walks in the door, the child with no dirty diapers. And we just sitting there like, hey, we good. But no, we looking in the house like, we got it. She ain't clean, I ain't clean. It's just craziness going on over here. But it actually allowed me a lot of clarity and peace. And then for me as a mother and a parent, it gave me some type of routine. Like some of the tools she gave me actually helped us get better with our daughter in terms of balancing things out. What does our routine look like? Who does what? What time does this happen? How do we need to shut down? What does self-care look like? And then putting everything in a schedule. And so for me, it was like, bam, bam, bam. I am able to do these things. He's able to do these things. And I'm going to go to sleep. Or whatever else that looks like in journaling. I incorporated a lot of journaling into my routine. And then as a wife, I felt as if we had balance. I didn't feel like I was overburdened or like lifting it all on my own, and was able to express it to him in a different way so that he could understand what I was going through. Because I also felt like, don't you see me struggling? And it was like, no, you look like you got it all together. The house is clean, you got the food. Baby look a little crazy, but I feel like you got it. So she was able to also give me tools to express myself to him in terms of what we needed to do and get better and to feel better, actually.
One of the reasons why I was so committed to like putting the theme of like emotional wellness as a part of self-care is because I think for women, self-care is a huge marketing tool, right? Like it's a billion-dollar industry. Thank you, Sharon. And so when we think about how self-care is marketed, come to this wellness retreat and do this, or and not to say that any of that takes away from it, or go get your nails done, or go get a massage, or go here, or go on this trip. And a lot of times our emotional well-being is seen as an afterthought, right? Or the sustenance or sustaining of our emotional well-being. Like we have these moments where, yes, I'm feeling better, but I haven't started to do some of that internal work that's going to allow that feeling to sustain. So yes, I'm having a good day Tuesday, but I wake up Wednesday like, oh my God, I can't believe I spent X amount of money, or oh my goodness, I feel guilty about feeling good. Right. One of the things about depression and anxiety, especially for women, and especially with the pressures that you talked about, like the pressure to make sure that, everybody else is taken care of. And then if I have time, and then if I have energy, I'll take care of myself. But everybody else is going to be taken care of. So the pressure and sometimes the guilt that comes with acknowledging that this doesn't feel good. Or, even, and let's go over there too, like even how sometimes marriage is marketed to women as, this is the end all be all. And so to then acknowledge that, hey, I have what I want. I have this baby, I have this marriage, and something still doesn't feel right in myself. It brings a lot of doubt. It brings a lot of sometimes insecurity, and it brings a lot of guilt. And so how did you work through that in order to get what you need? So to be able to find something that was going to allow you to sustain emotional wellness, right? So it's not this fleeting thing. And then also to alleviate some of the pressure that you put on yourself, and that also others, again, with their good intentions may have put on you too, to show up for everybody else in order to put yourself first. What was that navigation like for
For
you?
me, it started with this expectation on what I thought it was to be a good mom, and then breaking that down. And it ultimately ended, is this baby alive? Great, check. Okay. She's alive. Okay, check. I'm a great mom, and that's how we're gonna move from there. The other part too was having an honest conversation with my mother, and I was just like, I feel like you had all these things together. And she's like, girl, no, I didn't. We had a village. Your aunt came and made the food. Your other aunt came and washed the clothes. And then I was like, why didn't you tell me this the whole time? I had this bar set what I needed to be. And here you have a whole team behind you, making sure you're shooting these goals in, but looking so good in the front. And so I realized from that moment that I also needed my own team to support me through this. And so being able to set realistic expectations for myself, like, no, I can't work 9 to 5, come home, cook, get the baby clean, do all the extra stuff. But what I could do is go to work, get the baby in, and we can make dinner together. And so we as a unit had to have a conversation on what is feasible for our family. And so we may not be able to cook every night, but can we do a healthy box and have the food ready? And we just need to do a couple little things to heat it up and be ready to go. Or is it going to be getting a rotisserie chicken from Giant and I can make the sides? Like, how do we make this simple for our household? And then the other part for us that we worked out is, how do we incorporate Kennedy in a lot of the things that we do? Because maybe she can do some of this stuff herself. Like, she can get the stuff ready for dinner. She can get her stuff ready for school the next day. Like, we don't have to constantly be doing all of this stuff running around together. So creating a routine was helpful. Setting realistic expectations for ourselves was helpful. And then even incorporating our daughter in the process was very, very helpful. And then she actually liked it. Now that I know she likes chores, great. I got something for you.
I want to go to Nikki's comment where she says, like, we place a Band-Aid on our emotions. Do you ever feel like do you feel like this comment resonates with you and where you were before you got into therapy, or before you got to the place where you wanted to dig deeper and uncover and unpack some of this stuff?
Yeah, I agree. I think it was easier for me to place the Band-Aid over it and just keep it moving. Like, okay, I feel this, but maybe I don't need to deal with this right now, because dealing with this right now might bring out something deeper that I don't really want to address. And I'm perfect. I have this all together and I'm gonna keep it moving. And then just keep moving until you have to literally rip the Band-Aid off. And it's like, no, I need to get myself together, because if I don't roll down these steps, the baby might roll down these steps. Like, I don't know. And before I even get to that point of thinking that, I want to make sure that I have a healthy and safe environment for myself and for my daughter, and just to make sure that we're all good. And so, no, I think for me, I was just rolling through the motions. Like, no, I'm good. Yeah, I'm feeling, I'm feeling down right now, but I'm gonna just keep moving. And I think also I got deeper into my work. I would spend more time at work and longer hours, so that I have to not come to the house immediately and be like, okay, I'm gonna just let them chill for a little bit and I'm gonna just deal with it myself. And so I really feel like I did do that until I realized that it wasn't a healthy environment for us at all.
The interesting thing about this Band-Aid comment, I want to say that, is that sometimes we are the only ones that think that we have this Band-Aid on our emotions. Like, you can think about a Band-Aid that you've kept on too long, like it's rolling up at the side, just some dirt under there, the adhesive isn't sticking, you just keep putting it back on there. And the reality of it is that some of us are doing that, right? Like, people can tell. The interesting thing about a lot of times with women especially is that we are emotional beings, and that's a beautiful thing. We are, and so what I feel, it's going to come out. And one of the things, I remember having a conversation with someone recently, and a lot of times, even the emotions that we have been taught to carry, understanding, and we went into this a little bit last week with the men in therapy, again, those 6 universal emotions that we have, joy, anger, fear, sadness, shame, and curiosity. We have been taught from childhood which emotions go along with being a woman or being a female, being a girl, and which emotions I can share and which emotions I can't share.
Mm-hmm.
And for some of us too, the emotion that we're allowed to share is anger. I can be angry. I can come home and I'm really depressed, but the house is a mess. And so I can blow up at everybody, right? Or I can be rude, or I can be, and that's socially acceptable. And it's more socially acceptable for me to be angry than it is for me to say that I'm sad or I'm afraid or I feel guilty. And so allowing ourselves, like you said, that opportunity to dig a little deeper, even if that comes with a little bit of fear that I'm going to be introduced to parts of myself that I didn't know were there, or I didn't think I was ready to deal with, but I see that I can move through this.
I,
What?
oh,
Uh-huh.
sorry.
No,
So
go
one of
ahead.
the things I wanted to talk about at that point too was, I think for me, I felt a lot of shame. Like I think I was stuck in the shame for so long. Like I feel like everyone else is surviving with their children and their husbands or their partners. And why aren't I? Like, why am I still stuck in this moment of feeling this way? And so I would be like, okay, well, I'm good then. I'm just good. I'm gonna just keep it moving. And I think for some people, for some women, for me, I think the cultural background plays a lot on the shame, because
Mhm.
shame also comes like shame on your family. Like all the other women did this. Your ancestors were strong Black women. They took care of children, and here you are struggling. And so for me, I was stuck in shame and also fear, because I didn't want to tell anyone I was going through this all alone until I was at the breaking point. I was like, you know what? No, I need help, and I need help like tomorrow.
I will say that. So I think for me, um, because therapy was a part of my training, like, so my training is in psychoanalytic theory. And so as a part of our training, we had to participate in therapy. And I believe that all therapists, and even though I don't see clients now, but going through that training before we could even see clients, whether it was in our internship or whether it was in our practicum placements, we had to be involved in our own process because, one, you can't expect someone to share if you're not willing to share yourself,
Mm.
right? And I think that was a lesson that I took as a person before I even became Dr. Tar. Just as a person, I don't ever want to expect someone to open up to me if I'm not willing to open up to myself, if I'm not willing to take this journey of self-exploration and identify or allow myself to experience the fullness of who I am, instead of Tara in this atmosphere, or Tara in this atmosphere, or Tara in this atmosphere. Like you said, Tara as the wife, Tara as the mom, Tara as the whoever, the professional. Can I just be? And I think for me, therapy gave a great relief and and allowed me to take off all the different roles, right? Like, you don't have to be a mom in therapy. You don't have to be a spouse in therapy. You don't
Mm.
have to be a sister in therapy. You don't have to be a daughter in therapy. You can literally just be yourself. And with that too, like, and I want to touch back on what you said. And again, if you're listening, I want to hear your comments too. The relief that came with that, but also the fear that came with that, because I think for so many of us, especially as women, we find our identity in the roles that we play
Mhm.
for so many other people in our lives, right? My identity is in being the one in my family that everyone knows that they can come to, right? Even down to, I'm going to go even down to like holidays. Like, I am the one in my family that makes this meal. Nobody else can make the potato salad but me. But even down to that, right? And so being able to be in a place where I'm not expected to be any of that, but
Mm.
myself, and the vulnerability that comes with that, because I may not even know who that person is at this point. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and another thing that I just thought of, like in some of the mom circles that, like the events I started going to, a lot of the counterparts that attended these circles were in therapy sessions two plus times a week. It was like
Mm-hmm.
the norm.
Right.
And they like everyone knew their therapist, and I'm sitting there like, so all y'all go to therapy? Oh, so everybody? Okay. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay. And so for me, it was like, oh, okay, this is so normal in this culture. Okay. So what is the issue in our culture when we bring up therapy and a therapist, that it's like, oh, you must be crazy. It's something deeper. And I think that hindered me a lot because I was like, maybe I have something else going on. And so those conversations with my therapist and getting to the root of some of the issues that we were going through and having those conversations and building that routine really helped my family.
I want to go to Nikki's comment. She said, I am the go-to person in my family and my feelings are often overlooked. I wanted to bring this up because you talked a lot about how your husband was very supportive of you going to therapy. What do you say to somebody like Nikki, where my feelings may be overlooked or I may not have that supportive spouse? How do I make sure I still carve out that time for myself?
I think you just have to do it. And I think you have to do self-reflections in your life and your routines and what it takes. What do you do each day for everyone else? And then what time do you take to do for yourself? And for me, I like to look at it like a pros and cons list. I'm putting in 8 hours for everybody else. How much of my day am I spending for myself? And I carve some of that out. And so journaling is my thing. And so for me to decompress throughout my day, as soon as I come home, everyone knows, okay, give mommy 5 minutes to just get herself together. You could have all the time after that, but just give me my 5 minutes. And I think by creating that expectation from people setting that expectation, because you can create it, but people don't listen to you. Set the expectation on what it is that you need from people in that moment, and then just do it.
I think too, it's important that we set boundaries with ourselves. And so I think a lot of times we talk about setting boundaries with other people, right? I'm going to set this boundary so they know that I have the 5 minutes. But I often say this, when I'm doing trainings and workshops, it's usually not other people who violate our boundaries. It's usually us who violate our boundaries. Like, I know that I need this 5 minutes, but if my daughter's crying or if someone calls me, I'm going to violate that boundary and then be mad at myself that the boundary, right? That the boundary has been violated. And so when we talk about our feelings being overlooked, the first person that we have to check for violating that boundary is us, right? I have to acknowledge that I have overlooked my feelings and I'm going to set a boundary with myself that I'm going to honor this space. And so I love how you said that 5 minutes, because some of us may say, you know what, I'm going to come in and the first 30 minutes that I come in, and 30 minutes may be too long. I know I'm going to go to my child or go start dinner after 10 minutes. But what is a realistic, like you said, that realistic expectation or that realistic boundary that I can place and honor on myself that I can then enforce with other people? But we are the first person that has to receive and give ourselves permission for this allowance. And so understanding that piece too. Shamika has a question. Can a mentor be similar to a therapist in respect to being heard and affirmed? At what point is therapy a need in addition or in substitute to a mentor? So I don't know. Do you want to answer this one? Okay, so I'll take this one. So Shamika, so for me, mentors are wonderful. I am a big advocate of mentors, both professionally and personally. Therapists have clinical skills. So when you are going to therapy, you are going to someone who is trained, who is licensed in working with individuals with mood disorders, so mood disorders are anxiety, depression, PTSD, bipolar disorder, postpartum depression, which Shamia is talking about. And so going to a mentor, yes, I have skills and I can give effective coaching. But when we talk about therapy, I'm going for clinical skills. And so usually when we talk about therapy, I'm going to seek a therapist because I may have ruminating thoughts. I have, which a lot of times comes with anxiety. I may have thoughts that are this all or nothing thoughts, right? This all or nothing thinking. So I'm thinking that things are always going to happen or things are never going to happen. And I want someone who can challenge those thoughts in a way that is affirming and validating to my process as a person. And so when seeking out a therapist and how a therapist differentiates from a life coach or from a mentor is that this person has received additional schooling, training, supervision is key. So one of the questions that I would ask people, whether they're your mentor or your therapist, what type of supervision have you had that has trained you for this role? Because a lot of people give themselves titles that they may not have the background and the work put behind them to kind of uphold what they're saying that they are. And so when we think about what point therapy is necessary, for me, it's always a checkpoint of how is my current behavior impacting my emotional functioning? How is it impacting my relationship with myself? And how is my current behavior impacting my relationship with others? If I am functioning well and everyone is around me and people, want to be around me and I'm able to attend to my needs, I'm able to fulfill the roles that I have for other people in my life, then that's fine. But if I'm noticing that in moving through my day, I'm still having feelings of sadness, I'm still having feelings of uncertainty, I'm still having feelings of anxiety, I'm still experiencing grief and loss, then it may be time to seek a therapist. Also, understanding too that you can have both. I can have a mentor who can help me navigate. If there's a mother that I look up to and how she has raised her children, yes, come and mentor me, help me understand how I'm making dinner and give me these skills. But as it relates to doing some individual work, I want to go to someone, or you want to go to someone who has some training and some background and some questions to ask therapists is, what theoretical framework do you ascribe to? So certain examples, like I said, my training was in psychoanalytical theory with some dialectical behavioral therapy. So some people are trained in cognitive behavioral therapy. Some people are trained in ACT therapy. There's so many different types of theoretical frameworks. I want to make sure that it's a good fit. I want to make sure that the skills and the techniques that you're teaching me are related to something that's grounded in this framework that has proven results, something that I can then do on my own. One of the things that I have loved about therapy is that there's homework, right? Because we know one of the interesting things about the human brain and the human psyche is that we have our defense mechanisms. So I can go to therapy on Tuesday. We can have a great session. Guess what's going to happen Tuesday? That when I leave on Tuesday to that Monday, I'm building up my defenses. You know what? I didn't even mean what I said. I'm going to skip this appointment. I'm going to come in the next week and act like everything is fine. So I want, like Shamija talks about journaling, I want to do things that allow me to go deeper in finding out not only just my triggers, but what things I enjoy. Therapy is not about, and a lot of times people are fearful of therapy because it feels like it's going to be a crying session or a venting session. No, therapy is that may be a part of it. There may be some sessions where you're leaving feeling, this was tough. And then other sessions, you're like, I can do this. This is great. And allowing yourself to experience that full range of emotion. Did you want to add to that, Shamija? When did you know that therapy was a need? And it did.
I knew when I just couldn't take it anymore. And I knew that the people, I couldn't do it. And I knew that the people around me didn't have the skills to help me in the way that I needed to be helped. And so for me, I knew I needed to seek someone who had those tools in that toolbox to help me navigate through that process.
When we talk about stigma, you touched on it a little bit, and you also talked about you being from a different country and the cultural stigmas that come with your native country. But what stigmas, if any, do you think women in general have to overcome before therapy becomes an option?
I think being weak is one of them, because we are expected to be the strong Black woman that handles everything, whether you have children or not children, married or not married, working full time, 3 jobs, 5 jobs, whatever it is, whatever you're doing, you're supposed to be strong at it. And so the minute you talk about therapy is, oh, well, she got to be weak. Like, well, why she can't deal with this on her own or talk to a circle of friends? And then, are you crazy? Like, you have to be, it's like either the thing you were talking about is either all or nothing. So that means she must be like really crazy and she has something super going on. But I think the understanding of therapy for people is the expectation that you're sitting on this couch giving all your life secrets and all the things that happened to you as a child. But from my experience, it was nothing like that. It was good conversation. We did art, a lot of journaling, even some dancing, which was totally beyond what I was expecting to do that day. But I think just the stigma itself of going to therapy, seeking therapy, talking about therapy is that you have to be, something has to be wrong with you.
You almost have to like earn your way to therapy through pain, right? It has to be justified. And to me, living is the justification, right? I mean, again, because life is not a respecter of what you have going on.
Sure
And
don't.
you want to have the skills. And one of the things that I'm a big advocate of is that you don't have to wait for something to go wrong. Like you said, I don't have to wait until, I just can't take it anymore in order to pour into myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because, the best time to prepare for anything is when you don't have it right at your doorstep, right? The best time to pour your seatbelt is before you get in a car accident. And
I
so,
like that.
and so in order to build up our toolkit, why don't I pour into myself when my glass is already half full, already at the top versus being depleted? And I think that also is a part of the stigma too that women face, that I have to be at this point of depletion before I am then able to ask for help. Right. And part of, this whole self-care and self-love series is, can I pour into my cup without it being empty? Am I willing to do that? And I'm about to start preaching after that. I think.
Come on. I'm ready.
So when we think about stigmas that people have, or the notion of going to therapy, are there any takeaway points that you have for someone who may be interested, or what was it about you? What were you looking for in a therapist? What did you know that you needed in a therapist that you could give to the Dr. Tara community?
For me, I know I wanted to have a female therapist.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I wanted to have someone of the same race as me so they can understand some of the cultural context that I may be talking about. And I wanted someone who was going to think outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was looking for someone who incorporated art, music, some other alternatives included in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted someone who had some experience with postpartum depression, for sure.
I think that's great. So one of the things that you're talking about is what we call like a match provider.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that takes some self-awareness too. What is it that I'm going for? And then making sure and being okay to ask questions. So therapy, and I've talked about this, I remember talking about this with the great Matt Prensberry, who's a part of the Black Fathers Foundation. He talks about it in the forms of dating, in the context of dating. Like you are weeding people out. And so just because you find a therapist doesn't mean that I have to stay with this therapist. I can ask, again, I'm able to ask them questions. Again, what is your theoretical background or training in? So what does that mean that we're going to do, right? If I'm going to an art therapist, what are some activities that I'm going to be partaking in? What are some things that I can do at home? And so understanding that part of it too, and understanding the advocacy and the healing that comes as a part of advocating for ourselves, especially as women, again, without, and Shamika, thank you for that, like without being depleted as a part of self-care. The last question for you, Shamia, before we wrap up, how do you see therapy as a part of self-love for you? And how do you make sure you find that balance in everything else that you have going
on? Just as I need water to drink to keep me hydrated, I think I have to have a balance of therapy in my life. And I keep talking about the toolbox and the toolkits just because I know for me, the people that I surround myself don't have the necessary skills or coping mechanisms, because I can't keep going to the same person all the time with all my drama and my issues without that also adding some other things to their life. And so for me, it's just about connecting to the person who understands this and who can help me find routines and different methods to handle what I'm going through. And then I think just knowing your worth. Like for me, it was my life meant a lot to me. And before I got to the end point of whatever could be the possibility at the end, I know for myself that I needed to check in. And so I did a self-awareness, like, what's going on, Shamia? What are the things that you need to take off your plate? What are the things that you need to incorporate that you really enjoy doing but don't have the time to do? And then working with my husband to say, what does balance look like for the both of us? Because I can say, I don't want to do dinner. I don't want to do any of this, but that's pouring a lot onto his plate. So where do we find balance for the both of us? And so having that conversation with your partner around balance And routines. As much as I thought I didn't like a routine, I love a routine.
Mm-hmm.
Coming in, we're gonna do dinner, gonna do homework, get ready for bed, we're gonna read a book and go to sleep. Like creating that routine really helps us streamline the way we operate. And it actually gave us so much time. Like I didn't realize how much time I wasted in the evening just not doing all the stuff that we needed to do. And so having open conversations with your partner, setting some expectations, creating a routine, and then knowing your own worth. Like, I value my life. And so, what are the things that make me happy? What are the things that bring me joy? And what are the things that are my triggers that I know that I need to take out? Because I don't need to be re-triggering myself and putting myself in an unhealthy environment that will affect the people around me.
I love that, like routines and the value. And the one thing that I want to add to that is, even if I don't know my worth, right? Because some of us are there too. And I want to speak to the full range of women who may be listening. Even if I don't know my worth, if I'm willing to find out my worth, pouring into myself to see what I can discover about myself. I remember reading this quote and it said, there are beautiful parts of yourself that you haven't even met yet. It just stuck out, like, what is going to be revealed, with the fear that often comes from therapy is that I'm going to find all these ugly and dark places. Like, you might, but I'm pretty sure you already know some of them, right? You know those places. You're going to find some beautiful things about yourself. And are you willing to allow yourself? It's oftentimes our light that frightens us, right? Because I can be the mean one on my job, this or this person, but the light that frightens us. And am I willing to allow that part of myself to come out? And like you said, that self-worth part, Nikki said, I love that, Shamija, that self-worth piece. And so being able to have that, almost like that faith of the size of mustard seed. Am I willing to think about myself differently? Am I willing to handle my emotions differently? Am I willing to ask for help differently? If I can answer yes to any of those questions, and this goes back to one of the statements or questions that Shamika had, then yes, then therapy may be a viable resource for me. So Shamija, as we get ready to wrap up, what would be your 3 takeaway points to women who are considering therapy for themselves or think that they may suggest it to someone that they love or care about?
I would say, sister, you are loved. And sometimes we need help outside of the circle of friends that we have, and it's okay to seek it. And 2, self-worth. And self-love is the best love. And I know that that's the topic for tonight, but it is so true. And then for me, 3, it reminds me of something Heber said, I want to say a couple of weeks ago. Sometimes saying no to you allows someone else to say yes. And so that's giving someone else the opportunity to say yes. Because if I continue to say yes all the time, I'm not allowing others to be able to help. And so for me, just knowing that sometimes I just need to say no for my own self-value. Like, I can't be everything for everyone. And so understanding that and realizing that, and then setting that boundary for myself and for myself and for you is really good. Just creating healthy boundaries.
Well, thank you, Shamija, so much for just your transparency, and your authenticity and showing up and allowing yourself to be fully human in this experience. And so thank you for sharing your story, a little bit of glimpse into your story. I want to thank everyone for watching Dr. Tara Tuesdays. We will be back next week I'm so excited about this topic, learning to walk away from toxic relationships. And so we're not just talking about intimate relationships, even friendships, some familiar relationships that, I remember Nina Simone has a song or a quote, I don't know, it's on Facebook. I mean, a meme, if love is no longer being offered at the table, you have to learn when to get up and leave. And so learning to walk away as a form of self-love and as a form of self-care from relationships that no longer serve us. We'll be talking about that next Tuesday, February 18th. So thank you all so much. And as always, let's heal together. Peace.